Exposed: how an amazing black woman transformed laughter into a $1 billion empire. Empowerment. Maya Johnson stared intently at her computer screen, a graphic balancing her marketing metrics against an image of her grandmother, a woman whose laughter could fill a room with warmth. But today, that warmth felt distant, fraying at the edges as the pressure of expectations clamped down on her like a vice. The weight of her corporate job pressed on her chest, stifling her sense of humor and a passion that had long since been shunted aside. Every day she donned her mask of professionalism. Every day she carved out a version of herself that fit into this polished, predictable world. Yet beneath the surface, a storm brewed. Yearning to escape the monotony of conference calls and PowerPoint presentations, Maya felt like a ghost haunting her own dreams, robbed of laughter and spontaneity. She often recalled the dinner table moments, her grandmother weaving tales that danced between truth and comedy, transforming everyday struggles into sources of joy. It was a defining part of her identity. Yet here she was, imprisoned by societal expectations, making safe choices to avoid financial peril, while her heart screamed for the spotlight. But today was different. A phone call shattered her rut. Her grandmother had passed away. Tears blurred her vision as she sat in her modest office on Peachtree Street, grappling with the painful loss of the guiding light in her life. The funeral was bittersweet. A chorus of laughter mingled with grief as relatives shared their memories of the matriarch who turned sorrow into comedy. In the midst of it all, Maya unearthed a hidden legacy, a box filled with comedic skits her grandmother crafted, vibrant narratives capturing their family's journey. Her heart raced as she leafed through the yellowing pages, a fierce longing igniting within her. This was it. This was her chance to honor the woman who taught her that laughter could heal. Yet the excitement faded against a tide of doubt. What if she failed? What if all those years working in marketing had dulled her innate creativity? Pushing the thoughts away, she set to work, transforming those sketches into engaging comedic content. Suddenly, her videos found an audience. People resonated with her authenticity, embracing the quirks that defined her and her family. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As her platform grew, tension swirled, suffocating her joy. Family meals turned uneasy. Voices weighed heavy with concern about how success could draw her away from her roots. Friends voiced their worries, tensions rising as Maya grappled with the fear of becoming someone her family wouldn't recognize. Doubt gnawed at her conscience. She could feel her old friends slipping away in the shadows of her ambition. Just when she thought she had found her voice, an industry insider belittled her efforts, spouting harsh truths that cut deep. The word genuine echoed mockingly in her mind. Was her work even valued? The labyrinth of external pressures pressed relentlessly against her burgeoning confidence. This was more than just a crisis of career. It felt like a struggle for identity itself. Would she choose to silence herself and protect her newfound empire, or would she fight against the tide, uplifting others in the process? Uncertainty festered in every corner of her mind as she prepared for the confrontation that loomed ahead. Each moment steeped in anguish, drawing her closer to an inevitable reckoning. Maya stood by the window, her fingers tracing the cool glass as she gazed out at the bustling street below. The world continued to swirl with activity, oblivious to the tumult within her. Each passing car, each hurried pedestrian seemed to laugh in the face of her uncertainty, mocking her hesitations.
She could hear her grandmother's voice in her thoughts, urging her to push through the fears that threatened to consume her. "Do it for the joy," she whispered to herself, her mind replaying the warmth of family dinners filled with laughter. But now, laughter felt like a distant memory, an echo of better times drowned beneath the tidal wave of expectations. She recognized that she was standing at a crossroads. Her platform could either diminish her voice or serve as a beacon for others. Deliberately, she inhaled, grounding herself in that moment. It was time to reclaim her narrative. Determined, Maya shifted back to her desk, a battleground of freshly crafted comedic sketches and half-edited videos. She had promised herself that her grandmother's legacy would not be lost to a world that too often imposed silence on authentic voices. With a renewed vigor, she dove into her latest project, reimagining the comedic sketches into a vibrant video series. Each scene was infused with the joy, struggle, and triumphs that reflected her personal journey, holding tightly to that core of authenticity her grandmother taught her to embrace. However, as the hours stretched on, reminders of the criticism snaked their way back into her thoughts. The industry insider's disparaging remarks replayed in her mind, festering like an open wound. She felt the weight of that judgment pressing heavily upon her chest. Was she merely a novelty, destined to be discarded when the laughter faded? The fear of being unworthy clawed at her, trying to reel her back into a safe, uninspired shell. Maya knew that confronting this fear meant stepping out of the shadows of doubt that sought to confine her ambitions. She decided to invite her closest friends to a private screening of her latest creations, determined to share her journey and laughter with those who mattered most. As the day approached, anxious butterflies flitted in her stomach. The thought of their reactions tugged at her heart. On the day of the screening, her friends filled her apartment, laughter and chatter creating an ambiance that felt almost unreal. Maya's heart raced as she settled in front of her laptop, poised to play the compilation of her work. The atmosphere was electric, laden with a mixture of anticipation and unease. As she pressed play, her insecurities coursed through her body, every laugh and cringe from her friends threatening to dissolve her confidence. Yet, as each sketch unfolded, a wave of warmth washed over her. The sketches that embodied her soul, fueled by her grandmother's spirit, evoked real laughter. Each punchline fell flat in the beginning, but as the sketches unfolded, the weight of her vulnerability transformed into a soft glow of comfort and connection. She saw genuine recognition in her friends' eyes, admiration for her bravery and authenticity, sentiments that slowly began to heal the raw places within her. When the final video ended, silence enveloped the room. Maya held her breath, bracing herself for what might come next. Would they stand in awe, or would the specter of judgment rear its head again? Finally, her best friend broke the silence, applauding. The rest followed suit, a wave of appreciation washing over Maya. But as joy swelled within her, an unforeseen tremor of fear stalked just beneath the surface. Was this the moment she had longed for, or merely a fleeting glimpse of acceptance? And more importantly, how would grasping onto this newfound clarity and gratitude confront the dark truths lurking just outside the door, ready to challenge her burgeoning empire? The moment of truth was closing in, and Maya felt herself teetering on that precarious brink between the life she had created and the fears she still needed to conquer. As the applause gradually faded, Maya found herself enveloped in an intricate web of emotions. The overwhelming validation from her friends felt like a double-edged sword. It promised confidence, but simultaneously reminded her of the world's undiscriminating spotlight. Her heart galloped as diverse thoughts spiraled through her mind. Was this her breakthrough, or merely a half-hearted approval? She had shared herself so completely in those sketches that it felt almost sacrilegious to think of their impact as transient. Determined to capitalize on this spark, Maya committed herself to transformation, not just as a creator, but as an entrepreneur. She envisioned a network of her own, a platform dedicated not only to her comedy, but also fostering diverse voices and stories that often went unheard. To make that vision a reality, however, she would need more than creativity. She would need a plan. Maya began mapping out her approach, crafting a strategic business model that looked beyond just her immediate sketches and drew on the idea of community. What if she could collaborate with other aspiring comedians, filmmakers, and creators of color? Each project could feature their stories, their struggles, joys, and humor. She envisioned workshops and mentorship programs that would allow others to find their own voices while building a collective audience. With renewed purpose, she began working tirelessly. Nights blurred into mornings as Maya composed emails to potential collaborators, sharing her vision of community-focused projects that intertwined comedy and empowerment. She dove into research about the entertainment industry, uncovering trends, funding opportunities, and resources specifically for creators of color. With every click and scroll, she honed her understanding of audience dynamics and the algorithms that drove engagement online, determined not to be a casualty of the ever-evolving media landscape. Still, amidst her ambitious planning, doubt clawed at her edges. Each step forward made her question if she truly had the capacity for such an undertaking. What if she was stepping into murky waters without knowing how to swim? The phantoms of her critics crept back in, whispering jabs of inadequacy. "You're just a comedian. Can you really lead an enterprise?" Each day, as she tore through insightful articles and noted industry trends, she battled the inner voice that persisted in undermining her confidence. One evening, while juggling her tasks, Maya stumbled upon a virtual seminar about female leadership in the digital world. Intrigued, she signed up, feeling a flutter of hope amidst her usual doubts. The speaker, a Latina entrepreneur, shared her tumultuous journey from obscurity to building a thriving brand. Maya listened intently, taking notes as the speaker emphasized the core tenets of resilience and the importance of authenticity. "You need to believe in what you do," the entrepreneur said. "Your narrative is your power." Maya felt a spark as the words resonated deeply within her. After the seminar, she reached out to the speaker, sharing her story and her ambitions. To her surprise, the entrepreneur responded with encouragement and agreed to a one-on-one call. That moment would become a pivotal point on her path. Cautiously excited, Maya realized she was not just seeking validation, she was stepping into her own power, daring to believe in what she could create. Yet this was just the first step towards a much larger journey. As she prepared for the upcoming call, the echoes of her grandmother's voice surged forward, fortifying her resolve to embrace this unknown territory. Could she truly become a leader, an architect of her dreams? The tension built, pushing her to confront not only her fears, but also the magnitude of her aspirations. But just as confidence began to swell, an email notification blinked on her screen, an invitation to audition for a prestigious comedy competition. Would she leap into the spotlight again, risking everything she had built so far? The decision hung in the air, poised to change the course of her journey. Maya stared at the blinking cursor on her screen, the residual adrenaline from the seminar morphing into a tangible pressure in her chest. The invitation loomed larger than life, the subject line practically screaming at her. It was an opportunity, a potential game changer, but it also felt like a precipice. Would she take the leap, or would she let fear anchor her back into the shadows? Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, a mixture of excitement and dread swirling together. Just yesterday she had envisioned a creative community that would empower those like her. Would stepping into the competition undermine her nascent vision, or could it provide an invaluable platform? The internal conflict was maddening, and in that moment a bittersweet tang of determination filled her. This wasn't about just a competition. It resonated with her newly kindled dream of leadership. Maya closed her eyes, recalling the entrepreneur's words, believing in what she did. Could she, in turn, believe in herself enough to embrace this new challenge? The faces of her friends, the resonance of their laughter from the performance flickered in her mind. What did it mean to be a successful comedian and a leader at the same time? Could she intertwine those roles? Deep down, a flicker of anger surged at the voices of doubt that had repeated in her head for years, maligning her dreams. They had told her she couldn't. But now, with the weight of 1,000 possibilities, that declaration felt chillingly outdated. She didn't want to be confined to what others thought she could do. She wanted to transcend those limitations. A mix of clarity and resolve filled her as she realized how much she had evolved in such a short span of time. The struggle she had faced when initially embarking on this journey was now a badge of honor worn proudly on her sleeve. She saw herself stepping into this arena not just as a contender in a competition, but as a voice amplifying others. After all, by leveraging her platform, she could curate a space for those who had stories to share, for those who possessed humor she could only amplify. With a newfound resolve, she opened her email and crafted her response to the audition invitation. It was straightforward, yet brimming with her unmistakable voice and passion. This was not a mere application. It was a step forward, a declaration of intention. Sending it off felt cathartic, igniting a flame beneath her ambition once more. Days blurred into one another as she prepared for the audition. Every day was an equation of preparation versus self-discovery. As the bright stage lights hovered in her mind, so did every humorous twist and turn she could offer. Yet undercurrents of anxiety remained. What if she wasn't enough? What if they didn't see her vision? Each time doubt intruded, Maya employed techniques she'd learned. Breathing techniques, visualization exercises, and the determination to flip the narrative. Then came the day of the audition. Standing backstage, the air thick with both anticipation and uncertainty, she peered through the curtain. A stark contrast illuminated the room, glittering lights reflecting off a polished surface, packed with an audience. The sounds of laughter wafted through the cracks, serving both as a siren song and a potent reminder. Maya felt the flutter of nerves swell again, but now it also mingled with a cornerstone of confidence. This stage was a battleground for voices like hers, flawed, raw, and funny. She could make mistakes, but she could also create connections. In that fleeting moment, she embraced the uncomfortable swell of fear. She would walk out onto that stage not as the comedian who fears judgment, but as a leader who bears her identity like armor. It was the undertaking of a lifetime, a realization that her spotlight could illuminate pathways for others. But standing at that threshold, the stakes had never felt so high. And as her name echoed through the entryway, Maya took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to confront the unknown. Little did she know that the path to her dreams was about to intertwine unexpectedly with the emotional threads of her past, challenging everything she had built thus far. Would she emerge transformed, or would she crumble under the weight of expectations? The stage enveloped her like a second skin, the blinding lights illuminating every crease of her outfit, every nerve in her trembling body. Maya stepped into the spotlight, and in that moment she was not just reclaiming her space, but redefining what it meant to be vulnerable. Laughter rippled through the audience as she delivered her first line, a carefully crafted pun that she had turned over in her mind countless times. The sound of their enjoyment pierced through her anxiety, and she felt a rush. This was her arena, a realm where humor became a bridge to connection. Yet beneath the surface, she was grappling with self-doubt. Each chuckle pulled at the threads of her confidence, whispering insidious thoughts that tugged at her resolve. What if they only found her funny because of her delivery, rather than the substance of her message? Was she merely a punchline, or could she be a catalyst for change? Was this opportunity truly hers to claim, or merely an illusion stitched together by hopeful dreams? As she moved through her set, Maya discovered a rhythm, a surprising elasticity in her performance that surprised even her. The laughter propelled her forward, emboldening her to share deeper stories, her struggles, her triumphs, her very motivations for pursuing comedy. For every joke that landed, there was also a heartfelt line that invited silence, a moment of reflection that reminded her why she chose this path in the first place. It was exhilarating but painful, exposing old wounds that had yet to heal. The applause reached crescendos, yet her mind kept spiraling back to doubt. The stage felt like both a testament to her journey and an unforgiving magnifying glass on her fears. Driven by an innate desire to prove her superiority in this space to herself more than anyone else, Maya fought a mental battle with each laugh. She wondered if they understood the weight of her history woven into every quip. There was something transformational happening, but it was not clean and straightforward. As she delivered a line about her childhood insecurities, recalling a pivotal moment when she had stumbled in front of her peers, images of her younger self surged forward. Standing in a cramped school hallway, being the butt of the joke, feeling the isolation seeping into her skin, it flashed like the lights around her, painful yet vital. The laughter waned, morphing into a palpable energy that charged the air. Maya realized that her past was not something to be ashamed of. It was the bedrock of her resilience. If she could embrace her history, she could empower others to do the same. The stakes were steep. This performance was no longer about securing a spot. It was about offering a narrative of empowerment and possibility, of vulnerability as strength. With renewed purpose, she pivoted from humor to honesty, threading her comedic anecdotes with deep, sincere reflections that hewed closer to her heart. Could they see the truth beneath her playful facade? As the final punchline landed, the crowd erupted not just in laughter, but in applause that echoed like a chorus of acknowledgement. For a fleeting moment, she felt seen, understood, and supported. Then, amid the exhilaration, a stark realization struck. The journey ahead would be fraught with the very emotional threads she had exposed. As she stepped off stage, her pulse racing and heart pounding against her ribs, the realization settled in. The fight was far from over. She had opened a door, but the weight of her expectations was looming larger than ever. Would she be able to carry her audience with her as she dared to weave her comedy into a broader narrative of resilience and empowerment? The chatter grew as she stepped away from the stage, exhilaration and challenge swirling within her. The next chapter of her journey beckoned. Who would be there by her side as she faced the intricate tapestry of her future? And how would she navigate the seemingly uncharted waters ahead, filled with both promise and peril? Maya stepped backstage, lush colors of the performance area swirling in her mind, but the atmosphere suddenly felt heavier, almost stifling. The roaring applause still echoed in her ears, but as she reached for the curtain, glancing uncertainly at the faces that had just admired her talent, a different wave of doubt broke over her. This was just the beginning. In that moment, she immersed herself in the aftermath of what had just transpired. Her hands trembled as the adrenaline began to wane. Questions shot through her thoughts like a flurry of sparks. What did it mean to be vulnerable in this landscape of ambition? Just how deep was her commitment to using laughter as a tool for something bigger than herself? She felt the pull to dissect her performance, analyzing which jokes resonated and which fell flat. It was a conflict she relished and dreaded, the inner critic that prodded her toward continuous improvement while simultaneously threatening to drown her in waves of insecurity. Each laugh had been a validation, but each silence stung like an echo of past tortures, her childhood vulnerabilities clawing back, demanding to be addressed. Maya meandered through the dimly lit corridors leading to her dressing room, her breath hitching as self-doubt loomed. The world outside seemed so vast and unwelcoming, a place where she could easily lose herself. Who would see her as she was evolving, rather than who she had been? It gnawed at her like a persistent itch. Seated at her dressing table, a cracked mirror reflecting both pride and apprehension, she rummaged through her notes. They lay scattered like her thoughts, ideas that had once felt firm slipping away like sand, leaving only anxiety. Was she ready to embrace her journey, or would she cower in the familiar comfort of insecurity? Maya took a deep breath, ruling out retreat. She grabbed a pen, carving sketches and notes about the themes she had threaded into her act: the power of vulnerability, connection through honesty, and the resilience found in laughter. It was all a budding vision. Perhaps there was more depth to her insight than she realized, a well of potential from which to draw. As she scribbled with unwavering determination, a wave of clarity washed over her. She could feel the tentacles of growth wrapping around her courage. She wouldn't only skirt around her vulnerabilities, she would wield them like a sword, using her struggles as ammunition to challenge the status quo. But with the excitement arose a gnawing fear. Would the world be ready for her unfiltered honesty? She would risk appearing foolish, an implosion of experience and expectation. But if she remained silent, her fears would only keep her confined in a loop of mediocrity. Maya considered the connections she could forge if she channeled her vulnerability authentically. What if she could create a community of shared experiences, not through traditional comedy, but through her own journey?
Laughter might be the door, but the conversation that followed could be revolutionary. Invigorated by her own thoughts, decisions began to crystallize. She would reach beyond her comfort zone and challenge herself to connect with a broader audience. But first, she needed to confront her internal landscape, an expedition through her fears to emerge stronger, ready to dictate her narrative without hesitation. As she left her dressing room to face the buzzing crowd still alive with excitement, a familiar sensation ignited within her, the thrill of potential. What awaited her was uncertain, but it was promising, and in that tension, a fire lit in her belly. The time had come to face her vulnerabilities head-on. Stepping back into the hall, her voice shaking just slightly, she thought about what she was truly ready to embrace. With each heartbeat, the moment grew closer, a forthcoming open mic where she would debut the freshest iteration of herself. Would she be brave enough to unfurl the deepest layers of herself on that stage, revealing not just a performer, but a profound thinker capable of transformation? The path before her was laden with new questions to unravel. What journey would unfold during her first attempt to disrupt the barriers she had so carefully constructed? Would she succeed in creating the dialogue she envisioned, or would the laughter drown her thoughts once more? Maya stepped back into the vibrant atmosphere, the buzz of anticipation electrifying the air. She felt the eyes of the audience flicker like candle flames, some familiar, others strangers, all eagerly awaiting what she had to offer. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, a reminder of the stakes she had set for herself, and yet in that moment a sense of purpose washed over her. This wasn't merely a performance, it was a declaration of her evolution. She opened her notebook, flipping through ideas, themes, and sketches, each word a stepping stone leading her through her internal landscape. What had once felt overwhelming now appeared almost manageable. She knew that authenticity would light the path she had chosen. If laughter was her weapon, honesty would be her shield. She envisioned her stories tumbling out with a rhythm that could only be born from a place of vulnerability. As she began to speak, a flicker of hesitation crept in. It was the familiar face of insecurity, a ghost of the past that had learned to stalk her every venture into the spotlight. But this time she chose to confront it, inviting the audience into her world. I'm here to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable, the struggles that shape not just who we are, but who we can become, she declared, the words brushing across her tongue as if they were begging to be set free. A collective shift in the crowd signaled they weren't just listening, they were with her. Brief laughs ensued as she wove anecdotes of her earliest performances, clumsy missteps that felt painfully familiar.
Each laugh ignited her courage further, pulling her deeper into the essence of her journey. She began to share her story of growing up in a world that often didn't recognize her full potential, transforming personal trials into collective wisdom. But it wasn't enough to merely recount her narrative. She needed to lay bare her fears and insecurities.
I feared I would be too big, too loud, too unapologetic for the world to handle, she confessed, her tone shifting from humor to raw vulnerability. Much to her surprise, rather than retreating, the audience leaned in, captivated by this tantalizing dance between laughter and authentic expression. And yet, as her voice echoed across the room, a tight knot twisted within her. Was she truly ready to pull back the curtain even further? The boundary between performer and person blurred, her inner critic clashing with the newfound embodiment of her truth. The laughter was becoming a mirror, reflecting not just moments of triumph, but also the darker shades of her fear, that perhaps by being so open, she risked losing control of her narrative. Despite the encroaching anxiety, she deftly navigated her performance, probing deeper into topics that resonated with both humor and gravity. The audience responded with applause and echoing laughter, but within her mind a question loomed. Would they still embrace her when the laughter faded and was replaced by silence? This was the pivotal moment that weighed most heavily on her heart. She understood now that her journey wasn't merely about success on stage. It was about how to share her vulnerabilities without the fear of rejection defining her experience. The realization hit her. She was capable of creating not just laughter, but also a conversation. As she concluded her set with a poignant insight, vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength in disguise. She felt the surge of empowerment course through her, kicking away her doubt. It was a step toward a broader mission, a call to find strength in shared humanity and emotions. Walking off stage, the act felt like a baptism, an initiation into a larger purpose she had yearned to discover. The applause rang in her ears, exhilarating and daunting at the same time. She had made a mark, yet the journey awaited her still. Would she be able to harness the momentum of this performance to delve deeper, mapping out wider discussions of identity and strength? Outside the venue, an unexpected confrontation awaited her, an old acquaintance, one who thrived on cynicism and dismissal. They stood in her path, a direct challenge to her progress. "What makes you think anyone cares about your struggles?" they sneered. It struck a chord within her, awakening the apprehensions she thought were behind her. Maya took a breath, steadied her heartbeat, and prepared to respond. The moment called for courage, and she knew what was at stake, not just her performance, but a chance to truly redefine herself. Would this encounter deepen her dedication to her newfound mission, or would it force her back into the shadows? Maya stood frozen for a moment, the cool night air whipping around her, amplifying the uncertainty churning in her stomach. The cynicism radiating from her old acquaintance felt like a chilling specter ready to engulf the warm glow of her recent triumph. Memories of past insecurities drifted to the surface, those years spent caging her voice, dismissing her worth, paralyzed by the need for approval. The contrast between who she had been and who she was becoming was stark, and she could feel the weight of it pressing down on her shoulders. "Do you really think your little stories matter?" The voice slithered through the air, laced with derision. "People don't care about how you feel." Her pulse quickened. Did she truly believe that? Could she hold on to her newfound conviction while facing this dissonance? In that moment, something flickered deep within her. A latent fire, perhaps. She pictured the crowd's laughter, the resonance of connection born from shared experiences. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who felt reduced by their struggles. With a steadier voice than she knew she possessed, Maya faced the individual. "If you think that being vulnerable isn't powerful, you've missed the point completely. Sharing my truth isn't about seeking approval, it's about creating a dialogue." It was a bold declaration, almost foreign in tone compared to the timid girl she once was. She realized she wasn't just responding, she was asserting her identity. And yet, the persistence of doubt lingered. What if this encounter shattered the fragile confidence she had built? What if the identity she had begun to nurture crumbled before her? But she had no intention of retreating. She was done hiding in the shadows of other people's perceptions. People care about authenticity, and they care about the messiness of life, she pressed further. Her heart raced, but she felt anchored in her convictions. It's the unfiltered, raw experience that resonates. That's what connects us. It's what makes us human. The sarcasm evaporated slightly, replaced by a momentary flicker of surprise in her acquaintance's eyes. She pressed forward. It's time to acknowledge our struggles, as individuals and as a community. I want to inspire that openness in others, to show them they are not alone. The familiarity of her old self, hesitant and unsure, tugged at her. But this was a steadfast moment of growth. She was now equipped with a mission greater than herself. Would this exchange ignite a greater purpose within her? Would this persistent voice of doubt finally slip into the background? The thought invigorated her with even more determination. Walking away from the confrontation, Maya's sense of direction felt fortified. She realized this was just a beginning, a confrontation of dualities between authenticity and cynicism, growth and stagnation.
Whatever doubts still lingered couldn't hold sway over her newfound trajectory. Each small victory would pave her path toward empowerment. While she knew she wouldn't change everyone's mind, she was willing to accept the challenge of connecting with those who were open to the dialogue. The night pulsed with potential, and she felt the spark of a new idea flickering at the edge of her consciousness. As she walked home, her thoughts began to spiral with possibilities. What if she could take her stories, her utterly human stories, and turn them into a movement? What if she created a platform that welcomed discussions about vulnerability and growth? The dream was becoming clear, a vision just waiting to be executed. The idea made her heart race, excitement igniting within. But looming overhead in her mind was the question that wouldn't relinquish its grip. How would she navigate the inevitable resistance? The path before her was exhilarating, yet peppered with uncertainty, leaving her both eager and apprehensive. With each step, determination collided with doubt. What did it truly mean to embrace vulnerability, and how could she leverage her experiences into something impactful? In that moment, she made a silent promise. She would not back down. Navigating the complexities ahead would require mastery over her fears, and she was willing to work for it. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she vowed to meet them with open arms. The winds rustled through the trees, mirroring her turbulent thoughts. As she turned the corner, the flickering streetlight illuminated a path that seemed to beckon her forward, whispering secrets about possibilities yet to unfold. The journey was just beginning, and lightning would strike again when she least expected it. Would she seize the opportunity, or would the shadows of her past grant her permission to retreat? Only time would tell. The sunlight streamed through Maya's kitchen window, casting a golden hue on a stack of notes and sketches that sprawled across her kitchen island. Each piece of paper vibrated with untapped potential, a tangible manifestation of her burgeoning ideas. She sipped her coffee, a rich elixir that sparked her determination. Today was the day she would take her first steps towards creating something bigger than herself. Her mind raced through the possibilities. A movement was not merely a dream, it was a gateway to deeper connections. But how would she carve out her niche? It wasn't enough to want to inspire others, she needed a concrete plan. What would differentiate her space from the overwhelming noise of social media? As she paced the room, memories slipped through her mind. Moments of deep vulnerability shared on stage, tears, laughter, and the palpable energy they generated in those who listened. Maya's commitment to authenticity ignited a fire in her soul. Those stories were not just personal anecdotes, they had the power to resonate and unify. She envisioned a platform that could channel this energy into something meaningful. Suddenly, an idea struck her. What if Maya initiated a series of workshops exploring the intersection of humor and vulnerability? These would be safe spaces where participants could not only share their stories, but also learn the art of storytelling with humor, the perfect antidote to the seriousness that often surrounded personal struggles. People could come together, leaving behind their guarded exteriors and embracing their humanity.
Yet, as quickly as the idea lit up her mind, doubt surged forth, threatening to extinguish the flame. What did she know about running workshops? Who would even attend? The familiar clutches of insecurity threatened to spiral into her consciousness. Maya paused, anchoring herself. She had to confront this internal critic. Wouldn't the same doubt have held her back in the past? No more. She decided to frame it differently. What if she saw this as an opportunity to learn? The thought invigorated her. She would research, network, and surround herself with others who had ventured down similar paths. She could gather knowledge, hone her skills, and gain the confidence needed to serve her vision effectively. Motivated by the shining possibility, she sat down, took a deep breath, and opened her laptop. As she began to research storytelling techniques, the waves of excitement surged within her again. She watched videos of accomplished speakers, absorbed techniques, and noted their ability to masterfully weave vulnerability and humor together. The more she learned, the clearer her instincts grew. She would not do this in isolation. She needed a mentor, someone who could guide her through the next steps. With her newfound determination, Maya drafted an email to a well-known storyteller she had admired from afar, someone whose career had blossomed in the same landscape she now wished to explore. "Dear Name," she typed, the words tumbling out like a seasoned author. "I'm an aspiring storyteller and currently in the preliminary stages of designing workshops that foster open dialogues about vulnerability through humor. Your work has tremendously inspired me, and I would love to hear your thoughts or advice on embarking on this journey." With a hesitant hand, she hit send. A moment of doubt washed over her, but she shook it away, reminding herself that vulnerability was the cornerstone of growth. As the day unfolded, she found herself envisioning the workshops, the energy that could fill those spaces, the possibility of connecting people through shared experiences. But even with this enthusiasm, that same relentless voice whispered warnings about potential setbacks, obstacles that could render her carefully constructed dreams nothing more than vapor. The sun dipped lower in the sky, and Maya sat quietly, absorbing the mounting tension between fear and excitement.
She realized she was at a precipice. Each movement forward carried risk, but it also held the promise of transformation. The stakes were rising. She needed to take concrete action quickly. Soon she would be face to face with the realities of her venture, and the question gnawed at her. Was she ready to expose herself to scrutiny? And how would she handle the inevitable criticisms? Would she emerge stronger or retreat into the shadows again? As the evening settled in, she felt both exhilarated and burdened by the unknown. The next steps lay before her like open doors, but would she have the courage to walk through them? The edges of doubt pricked at her resolve, and the clash of potential weighed heavily on her heart. Would she truly be able to harness the transformative power of laughter? Only tomorrow would reveal what lay ahead. Maya Johnson stood confidently on the stage of an intimate venue, a mix of laughter and anticipation coursing through the room. Over the last few months, she had transformed her initial ambitions into a concrete vision, workshops that blended humor with vulnerability, stories that connected and inspired. This was her moment. She was ready to unveil her life's work, a culmination of personal growth and professional development. This launch was not merely an act, it was a celebration of her resilience. Each person in the audience represented a thread in the intricate tapestry of her journey, friends, family, and even new faces she hoped to reach. As she glanced at her notes, memories flooded back. She recalled the days spent grappling with doubt, the painful confrontations with her past, and how she had slowly transformed those struggles into sources of strength. It was thrilling to reflect on how far she had come. Once confined by fear, now she stood poised to guide others. The workshop commenced with warmth. Intimacy enveloped the room as Maya shared snippets of her journey, laced with laughter that resonated deeply with everyone present. Her hands flowed freely, echoing the stories of past embarrassments and personal fears, each laugh echoing the sentiments of "you are not alone."
The nervous energy that had once plagued her now ignited an undeniable charisma. She was no longer just a performer, but a beacon of authenticity. The participants engaged eagerly, sharing their own stories of struggle and laughter. Maya facilitated discussions that allowed everyone to explore the nuances of their experiences, merging their vulnerabilities into a collective narrative. By the end of the workshop, the atmosphere was electric, charged with camaraderie. People were laughing, crying, and most importantly, connecting. Vulnerability is our superpower, she concluded, the words resonating with newfound strength. It is the foundation of all genuine connections, and laughter binds us. Cheers erupted as participants shared their gratitude for an experience that felt simultaneously personal and communal. Maya had empowered them, and in turn, they illuminated her growth. The following weeks unfolded in a flurry of opportunities. One by one, her workshops gained traction, capturing the interests of media outlets that sought to highlight innovative projects focusing on mental health and empowerment. A local newspaper even featured her story, praising her for transforming grief and personal struggle into an uplifting brand of comedy that resonated with many, proving that laughter could indeed heal. Suddenly, Maya wasn't just a participant in the industry, she was carving out a space that blended education and entertainment, a fulfilling role that illustrated the gifts of humor. The once daunting world of entrepreneurship felt less daunting, and she reveled in the discovery of her capabilities. Systems were in place, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. She had achieved not just professional success, but validated her core purpose. Then came another unexpected email, an invitation to speak at a national conference dedicated to women in leadership, showcasing her unique approach to fostering connection through humor. That email was a tipping point of recognition. She was not just making it, she was being recognized as an expert in bridging vulnerability and humor in a way that could foster real change. With each passing day, Maya's confidence solidified. Feedback flowed in from participants who expressed how shifting their perspectives on vulnerability changed their lives. She saw tangible evidence of her impact, and it only deepened her resolve to continue fostering spaces for authenticity. This was more than a career, it was her calling. Standing before thousands at the conference, she felt solid. She had conquered the ghosts of self-doubt and learned to embrace her voice with authority and pride. The laughter she had once simply shared became a force for genuine empowerment. As she shared her journey from a fearful corporate employee to a successful entrepreneur championing a movement, she embodied all that she had wanted to achieve. The denouement of her journey was not merely an end, it was a transformation that extended beyond herself. Maya's grand vision echoed the importance of individual stories in a collective narrative, a vital message that the world craved. Each time she stepped off a stage, surrounded by applause, she reaffirmed that laughter could not only entertain, but heal, a legacy worthy of her grandmother. With clarity, she recognized that she had proven her worth. The struggles had forged a radiant path, establishing her position within a narrative of empowerment, authenticity, and humor. It was not just a triumph over fear, it was the glow of a mission realized, empowering others to share their own laughter, and ultimately reclaiming the joy that had been inherited from her grandmother. As the conference concluded, culminating in a wave of optimism and recognition, Maya smiled, reflecting on her journey thus far. Each success lit the next pathway ahead. She had not only achieved her dreams, but ascended to a veritable leadership role within her field. This was the moment where her journey merged with purpose, illuminating not just her future, but the futures of many who had yet to find their voices. In the realm of relationships, laughter, and vulnerability, Maya had become not just a storyteller, but a professional architect of empowerment, conquering doubt, establishing a community, and redefining what it meant to embrace one's truth. The journey had molded her, and she knew as she stepped into the next chapter that this was merely the beginning. And now it's your turn. To stay updated on more transformative journeys like Maya's, you need to subscribe now to the channel and ensure you don't miss out on powerful, exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Please leave a like right now to fuel the algorithm. And you must comment below your reactions and theories about Maya's incredible journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of inspiration today. Let's spread the light of personal achievements together.